Hey, welcome to the Social 333 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bentley. Today, my guest is Joseph Scaretta. Joseph, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Great to be here.
Awesome. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
I'm a serial entrepreneur, three-time, built two large national facilities management companies. My partners and I are back at it again with Mason Made.
So talk a little bit about facilities and infrastructure to the audience, and especially myself. Like, fill me in a little bit.
No, absolutely. So facilities management, dates back. I've been in it for over 20 years. It really goes to break fix of anything in a retail store. You think about flooring, paint, finishes, and now in our new business, we're focusing on really key infrastructure trades like fire sprinkler, fire suppression, any type of material handling like forklift repairs and pallet racking, and then vertical transportation, which is a really fancy way of saying elevator escalator. And so anything that moves people within a location is focused on compliance and safety is really what our niche is right now.
So one of the things that really drew me to you was that you started two faculty management companies from startup to over 50 million in revenue, and then you exited. So talk about that, and then I'm really interested in the exit part.
My partners and I grew up in the retail environment, and so knowing what it was like having tradespeople in and out of locations, I met my partner at a small retail construction company, and we've always our entire career focused on operating in the gaps, and meaning looking for where an industry isn't offering the solutions the client needs. And so we built our first business. I always say we met at a small retail construction firm. We then drove off into the sunset in a red Honda Civic and started our own company after working in the industry for about 8 months. And really, it was giving clients what they needed. And it was very simple, right? It was the basics of, show up when you say you're going to show up, ask the right questions, do the right job, deliver a high quality of service, and then offer solutions for clients, right? And look at what the root cause of the actual problem could be, whether it be an HVAC unit that went down or a flood that took place at a retail store environment, and then looking at how do we prevent it from happening in the future? As we came up with solutions for clients, we started just replicating them, right? And just coming up with best practices. And it was an industry that, again, I started out in the stores, so I knew it pretty well from the retail side. My partner came from the contractor side. So we took both of our experience and our histories together, and we started selling into national accounts. Some of our earliest accounts were accounts like 9 West, Sprint Nextel. We worked with Taylor Brands. Some of the later accounts we had in our first business was Target and FedEx Freight. We worked with some pretty large national companies. And we were 3 young guys. It was my partner and I, and then my younger brother that was with us. And we built our business really through elevating our people around us. We all worked extremely hard, but we always listened to the customer. And that was a big deal for us. And that's something that's carried us through all of our entities together, is listening to the customer's insight, what they need, and offering them solutions.
How did you get in with those companies? Was it a lot of cold emails? Was it cold calling? Was it stopping at their headquarters and drop off donuts?
Yeah.
What did you guys end up doing to get those kind of accounts?
You're making me reminisce a little bit, Chris. Thinking back, it was a lot of calls. It was a lot of emails. And for me, I was the first sales guy we had, right? One of the founders, one of them always has to be the sales and development guy, right? And I constantly called clients, called prospects, and really tried to understand where they were having problems. It's like, hey, I'm not going to try to sell you something today. I want to understand who your top vendor is, what they're doing really well for you, and where are they not doing so well, and where are the opportunities that if you had a partner that could deliver these solutions, would you use us? And the answer was always, yeah, what do you have? And so we would listen to the client's pain points and we'd build solutions around that. But it was a lot of cold call, a lot of emailing, and a lot of networking. We joined a trade association back when I started, and I shared this story a while back in a later interview, was around the industry we joined was Connects FM was the association. Back then they had a different name, but it's been rebranded since. And I got to tell you, this industry is so big on networking, and the association really helped me. I joined, I didn't know anybody. We barely knew the industry. And a competitor, I'll never forget at the time, welcomed me in, invited me to dinner with his clients, his team. And for me, that really kind of turned a light switch on for me. This was all about relationships and networking and driving solutions, and really not competition, but more a cooperative of really good companies that are delivering solutions for clients. So it was a really exciting industry to join, and it's kept me in it for 20 plus years.
I like some of these questions that you got about scaling and like what. So as I envision it, you're making these calls, and then you only got three people. You yourself and your brother and your other co-founder, and then you're like, okay, well, cool. Like we landed, I don't know, FedEx, right? And you're like, okay, well, there's a lot of locations, and I'm sure there's problems, just like any other property
Of
management
course.
company. Um, and then you're like, at some point, be like, crap, right? Like I'm gonna have to figure this out. And
Yeah,
then it's
of
just like,
course.
okay, like So what is? How did you go from maybe just doing like a small shopping mall that's local to something that's that big, that's multiple locations, that's a big name?
I would say let's rewind. FedEx was long into like when we were
Okay,
in business. Probably a bad example when we worked with their freight division, and this is 15, 20 years ago almost. The first one that really hit home for us was Nextel, and everybody remembers Push to Talk. How could you
I
forget?
do. Yeah, I'm
And
old like that.
for us, it all started out. There was a site in Peabody, Massachusetts, that needed snow plowing. Now, granted, we had some relationships. We built a network over the time that we had been in this industry for a very short period of time. The client called up that we had known from being in the industry, and he just said, "Hey, I've got a real problem. My snowplow vendor didn't show up. Can you guys help us?" And as an entrepreneur, it's like you're building the plane as you're flying. It's like, yeah, we'll find a way to get someone up there to snowplow. So I'll never forget. I called Glenn. We found one of the guys that we networked through. It was a vendor. His first name was Glenn, and I said, "Glenn, we got a Nextel store that needs snowplow. Can you do it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can do it. No problem. How much would it be?" "Okay, got it. We'll send you a check. No problem." And within 2 hours, it was done. And the auxiliary, it still gives me goosebumps today talking about it, because when you could deliver a solution and help a client when they need support the most,
Hmm.
it's just the sky's the limit from there. And we were always known for just driving solutions for clients.
So did you get a lot of word of mouth business?
Ton of word of mouth
Okay.
business. So we put ads in, trade publications, and I would tell you, even up until now, call it 20 plus years later, a lot of our business is really through referral, right? Clients that have had a really good experience with us are open to share that with other potential prospects. We have really good vendor relationships. Even like I said, instead of competitors, we look at as more of a cooperative of different national companies. We all talk and refer opportunities to each other, because at the end of the day, it's offering what's best for the client, right? And I think everybody in our industry, it's a really tight knit group. So the referral to me is the biggest.
I would imagine that advertising isn't really a big thing with you guys.
It's not. I think for us, we don't focus on advertising. We go to trade shows,
Right.
right? There's a couple of industry trade shows, Connects FM being the largest and main trade show that we attend. There's a lot of meetings and networking that we do within different groups within our industry. But we'll throw an ad here and there in one of the industry publications, but we don't do a ton of advertising.
Hmm. That's really interesting. It's just an interesting niche. Because if you were to go on to like a Facebook and put a Facebook ad, I mean, somebody's just gonna scroll right past it because like they don't really need that, unless it's more like a residential. But for a commercial space, it's a lot different.
Yeah, I feel like any type of social media ads is really driven more towards, residential. To your point, maybe a service that could do residential or commercial that's
Hmm.
primarily residential. When it's B2B in the service lines that we offer, we're really selling into the facility managers, the construction directors, the risk management department, loss prevention. Those are different departments we've sold into in the past, procurement, and we're dealing right at the corporate headquarters level. So a lot of those folks aren't looking at social media. What I would say that we're interested in, we're looking at, talking about AI, we're looking at potentially leveraging like an AEO function so that the LLMs could pick up some keywords and data. It's, call it this sweeping new type of SEO, right? It's what
Hmm.
SEO used to be, is what AEO is now. So I think we're looking at that, and you'll see a lot of the new generation that's stepping in is leveraging AI. They're searching, who could I find the best fire sprinkler vendor in this market? Who could build me a program around material handling? We want our name to pop up. So we're looking at those areas as ways of marketing and outbound marketing.
AI is really really interesting. Talk to me about balancing profit. I see that you have here and the purpose. I know like our audience is entrepreneurs, small business owners. They deal with the same thing. I've dealt with it, um, where it's you're balancing not only profit and having fun with your whatever your goals are, but also you sometimes lose sight of the purpose of the reason why you created the company and the people that you serve. So talk a little bit about that.
When we think of profit and purpose, right, we always look at rolling back, any type of revenue and profits we get back into the company for growth. And that will be growth through systems, technology, process, and training and development of our team. We also look at, really developing and really contributing to the community. That's something that's really near and dear to me. And you could see most of my background ties back in some level of social responsibility. I think it's a responsibility of every company to give back to the trade areas and the markets and the communities we service. So we do deploy a lot of funds and a lot of expertise back into the community. I'm sure I'll touch on a little bit later on our new program we just launched for skilled trades. We do a lot of work with Connects Foundation around giving back through in-kind sponsorship and project management of their big programs. And that's really big for us.
Hmm. Tell me a little bit more about that and like kind of what you got going on kind of towards the future. And then I'll have one last question for you.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, Chris. We actually just recently rolled out, I'm excited to share. You hear a lot about the gap in the skilled trades. And a lot of companies are focusing on writing big checks. A lot of companies are focusing on helping at the school level, at the trade school level. I think those areas are really impactful. I think the area that we've decided to focus in on is how do we take businesses that are 1, 2, and 3 years old that got started by a technician that was really good at the work, but maybe not so good in the back office, because some of us don't love the back office, right? How do they cold call into a national account? How do they grow their business? So we launched Elevate, which is our way to give back. And Elevate, what it does is it allows entrepreneurs to come in that are in those skilled trades. We started out with fire sprinkler, material handling, and vertical. They could submit their company's information. They could talk about the top 3 or 4 issues within their company and what they're trying to solve for and what they want their future growth to be. And then they have the ability, if they win, to get supported and partnered by our group. We give them expertise in development, leadership, mentorship, operations, and then we give them access to our key partners, whether it be for branding, marketing, insurance, all the key trades that we know on the administration side that are really important. And we will help them to grow and scale their business, because we think that solving the trade crisis also goes with these small businesses, helping them to scale their businesses to solve the work needs that are in our environment and our economy today. Right? If we could build stronger small businesses, we feel that would be a big solve to the skills gap in our industry.
The last question, I thought this was a really good one. So if you were to start all over today, what would you do differently?
I thought a lot about what I would do differently. If I can go back to the beginning, I wouldn't change anything. If I can go back to the start of Mason Made and Vision and Field Services, our other entity, we were looking at a sprinkler company probably about 8 months ago, and we're down to one of the final 2 bidders from an acquisition standpoint. And I think I would have really pushed to acquire it, right? We decided we were going to pull back, and another group decided to go forward. And I feel like that was one that we let get away. That was the one that got away from us. We've got a really good, robust pipeline of acquisition opportunities, but that one, looking back, we should have bought them. It's funny. That's the big, like, if I can go back and change it. What I would say, if I can go back, one thing that comes up a lot too, and I wanted to cover when we spent some time together, is partnerships, right? In entrepreneurs, partners have become taboo sometimes, right? People are like, you don't need a partner, do it on your own. I would say there's 2 partners that are most important to me. One is my partner, who's my wife, Stephanie, at home. Without her support, I would never be able to do the work that I do, and the support of our family and our home life. And then the other side of it is my partner that we started our first company with. We've been together for over 20 years.
Wow.
And that usually partnerships may not last one company. We're into our 3rd together. And I would say that having the right partner will really help you to double down, not only personally, right? At home, my wife is my partner. At work, my business partner is my partner. I would tell you partners are invaluable when you find the right one. And don't be scared to have a co-founder or a co-CEO. You don't have to do it all yourself. Shouldering the load that you have as an entrepreneur, either at home or in your business, having a partner is really important. So I wouldn't go back and change that either. I would encourage more people to go out and get a partner. Find the right partner, because the wrong partner, it's a complete opposite. It's a disaster. But the right partner will help you to double down and grow exponentially, both personally and professionally.
I think that's the hardest thing is to two different things is like one, let go of the ego and have a partner. And the second thing is like to actually have a partner. Because there's just so many horror stories of people getting burned by their partner or, litigation against their partner. It's just, there's a lot of stuff, that I see all the time. Even when you bring on shareholders, you can have, shareholders and you can have, executives in seats and stuff like that. And then before you know it, like you'll be the one out on your butt. And before you know it, the company's running on its own. And it's just,
Of course.
I've heard all kinds of wild stories. I've seen a lot of wild stories. And it doesn't take much really. If it's not built correctly, it doesn't take much for it to run off on its own.
Yeah, it could run off. I would say when my partner and I first got together, we started as friends, right? And we just had a common interest. Our egos were big when we started together. And it took probably a good year or two to really work that out together, where now it's what changed for us was when we decided to stop fighting over like who should win and who's right, and more focus on like what's best for the company, what's best for the team. And when you do that, you remove all barriers and you remove your ego, man, you could double down and you could move quick, because there's no question in any decision you make.
Right.
And if it's the wrong decision, you fix it, you move on, you adapt and change.
Joseph, if somebody wanted to find you, wanted to ask you some questions about business, maybe about facilities and infrastructure, maybe want to talk about just scaling, where would they find you?
You could reach out to me on the website, joe at mason, MASON, made.co is the best way to reach me, or on LinkedIn. Love to connect up with entrepreneurs that are looking for any type of questions around scaling, private equity support, or our industries at large. Love to connect.
Joseph, I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Awesome.
It's good seeing you, man.